You are listening to the Social Science KLAI-descope. Alrighty, what's up everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Social Science KLAI-descope with your host, KLAI. For today's episode, it's just me, there's no guest, and it's the 10th episode as well, so it's definitely a very special time for this podcast, the Social Science KLAI-descope. And I thought we'd just do a pretty basic, chill, casual catch-up episode with myself. Just to let you all know general impressions of the podcast on my end, and give some personal updates, and also things to come as well for the podcast. Before I get into all of that, please follow the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And follow my socials on Instagram at KLAI.descope, on Twitter at KMDLAI, or on LinkedIn. And those are the places where I promote the episodes, so you will never, ever, ever miss a drop on a new episode if you follow those socials, or if you follow the podcast for that matter. Alrighty, so I'm going to start with some personal updates and some personal news. I've got a couple exciting ones right off the bat. And so first, I just want to say that one of my papers, to my surprise, one of the papers that I've been working on since I've basically graduated from college in 2018, has finally been accepted for publication at the Journal of International Money and Finance. And so right now we're working through production for that paper, but it's very exciting, as always, to have a paper that is accepted, especially since it came out of the blue and during the pandemic as well. Like, that day was just such a bundle of joy for me. I just woke up, saw the email, and I was like, holy crap, this is so random. Kind of skeptical, but also super happy. So it was just a mixture of I didn't know how to feel. And I think, to me at least, this paper means a lot to me, not only because it's my first paper or my first foray into individual research, but also the collaborators that I've worked with on this paper. One of them is a Swarthmore professor, Professor Tao Wang. She's been a very good mentor and really good person, a collaborator in terms of helping us through the data, helping us through the econometric methods, and also helping us spot check some of the paper, and also writing up some of the results part of the paper as well. I think it's been pretty huge. So I definitely really enjoyed working with him. I also really enjoyed working with the other collaborator, one of my very, very, very close college friends, David Shu, my class year, also studied economics. And yeah, it's just been really, really, really fun working with him. For me at least, my view is part of the fun of academia is being able to work with people that you want to work with in some sense, whether that's because of merit, whether that's because they're just really close buddies, or there's an overlap in the interests. And so I really enjoyed working with David here, and just felt like working on a college project together, but this time at a bigger scale. So this paper was kind of born from an idea that David had when he took the International Economics Seminar taught by Professor Steve Golub. And he wanted to turn it into a research paper. And then over time he asked me if I wanted to help him work on it, and I was like, sure. And then that's how I got into the project, and we started working on it during whatever free time we had. So this was usually after work. I would stay at the office and then run some regressions or read some papers, or even write up the paper based on the results and the data, and the background literature stuff that we did. So just enjoying every process with him. When it came time to promote the paper or elicit feedback through presentations, preparing for all of them have been extremely nerve-wracking, tiring, but also rewarding at the same time. He presented the paper at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, which is a international economics think tank in DC. And so he presented it for a bunch of, pretty well-known senior academics in economics. And so he was also really nervous when he did it, but we got some good feedback that we incorporated into a paper from them. I presented the paper at Swarthmore over the summer, so it was just basically a couple college RAs, and everyone else was just like the entire Swarthmore Econ department, along with like various professors from around the area. That was also super nerve-wracking, and I think a personal story I had to share is like I think I low-key like blacked out when I was presenting the results section of the paper. I just kind of like ran out of things to say, or just actually don't even remember how it went. So that's that. But it was definitely a rewarding experience to present that paper in front of a big audience. And we also had the chance to present it. I didn't personally do it, but we had a chance to present it at the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. So that was exciting to promote. And then we submitted the paper, I want to say like 2019. Like we had one desk rejection at a pretty top journal, and we were just like, yeah, we're just gonna submit it to this top journal, and they're probably not gonna take it, but we just give it a whirl, whatever. And to none of our surprises, we got desk rejected, and then we were like, okay, let's go to the next journal that we have in mind on our list. That's slightly lower in terms of impact factor, but I think a better home for the paper. So we did that, and then we were waiting in limbo for like a year or a year and a half maybe, and then finally just got the news. Of course, like we had to do some minor revisions here and there, but for the most part, it got accepted, and was really happy about that. And so I've been talking about this paper. What is this paper about? So this paper is about how capital controls impact international trade. And so capital controls are basically policies implemented by countries to either promote or limit the flow of capital. And so this could be like rules that a country would set in terms of restricting foreign countries to invest in their real estate, let's say. That's like an example. Or invest in their bonds. And so that's what we mean by capital controls. And then, of course, international trade is the, exporting, importing stuff. And so a lot of the tags that you see, like made from China, made from Bangladesh, made from, wherever else country, or made in the US, like, those are the things that are related to international trade. And so it just kind of brings up the question, or general question, of how financial policies can impact real economy change. And so in this particular case, capital controls, how does international capital flow, or limiting that, impact how countries trade? And so we're looking at two main channels. One channel being how much the representative firm in the industry had in terms of assets, and so kind of like a endowment, if you will, but also their reliance and access to credit. And so how dependent is the firm on external credit? And through that channel, it might be because the international financial restrictions or the capital restrictions might impact how they were able to draw credit, and then therefore impacting their trade. So those are just basically two main channels that we kind of explore or think about, and then we run a bunch of regressions to basically test our hypothesis. Not going to really go into it on this episode, but if you're interested, yeah, I'll share the paper. It's also found on my website, um, my Google Sites website. So we have that going for us. But yeah, that's the update for the paper. Really fun experience working on with David and Professor Tao Wong. We have a couple other ideas in the back of our mind that kind of jump out from doing this paper. So whether we work on those or not, still up in the air, but at least for now, definitely something that we're all thinking about continuing to work on. Yeah. Second piece of news is I'm also currently undergoing the volunteering for the SACE National Convention. And so, what is SACE? SACE is an acronym for the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, and it is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2007 to help Asian heritage scientific and engineering professionals achieve their full potential. And so, what do we mean by full potential? At least for now, the full potential refers to career development and leadership. And so they've been around for a long time. But recently they've been doing a lot more social media outreach and things like that. So they have their own Instagram page. I think they were thinking about having their YouTube page or promoting their YouTube page. There's a podcast, I think, that's affiliated with SACE. Don't quote me on that, but it's called At the Adults Table. And they do a bunch of interviews and basically kind of like this podcast, but for the science community, and definitely with a more focus on like Asian heritage and a focus on science and engineering. And so if you're interested, you should check them out at saceconnect.org. A lot of their operations, a lot of the things that are being developed are all done on a volunteer basis. And so, you know, that just shows you how strong that community is. It's just all very volunteer driven. Every volunteer is very driven in terms of what they do to help prop up this nonprofit organization that is there for them. And so, as much as you take from the organization, you give back to the organization. It's kind of that model. And so every year they hold a national conference and convention, and it's been going on for a long time now. I think since the early 2010s, I want to say. Maybe even earlier than that, but they've been doing it for a while. And there's a national conference and convention for college students and professionals. And it's basically a 4-day event filled with workshops, trainings, resume reviews, career fairs, any networking opportunity you can think of, along with other fun activities. And so there's I think dance parties occasionally, socials, and they always do a big award dinner and award lunch. And so it's just a time where people gather to develop their careers, network, to build leadership skills, and also just to connect with the Asian community within science and engineering. I think for me, how I got involved, I was at another conference as an undergrad. It was called ICASU, which is East Coast Asian American Student Union or something like that. But basically they had a conference every year, and then SACE was actually one of the booths that was set up at ICASU. So I actually talked to someone that was running the booth. We were talking about SACE, and then that's how I got introduced and involved. And then from that moment on, I volunteered to work at the national convention. This was back in 2016, I would say. And then, yeah, I've been doing it ever since. And so every year I've been volunteering for this national convention. Have met wonderful people, people I would have never thought of meeting in a space where I never thought I would end up. So a lot of this is kind of serendipitous, but, I'm really happy that it happened. Just kind of engaging myself with a new space that's unfamiliar to me. I would say my connection to this organization would be, if anything, is through like math, let's say. um, and so a lot of the people that I've met and became friends with, they're all like engineers, and yeah, I think they're like mainly engineers and like scientists. So definitely enjoy meeting a lot of them, and definitely looking forward to, um, meeting new people who are also part of the organization. And so, in terms of volunteering for this year, or historically, I volunteered for the logistics committee of the national conference, and so we're typically responsible for making sure the conference runs smoothly. So one year, I was helping managing the registration booths. Another year, I was helping put up signs and guiding people to right areas, making sure all the signs and sponsors are all put up in the correct areas so no one gets mad. Another year, I was basically managing, like creating menus and managing food budget, or helping manage the food budget. And so that was a really interesting experience. And so, and then last year, because it was virtual, I was helping out with moderating some of the online sessions. Um, I was doing the controls of a magic show that happened virtually, which was really cool. Uh, and yeah, just doing a lot of the virtual tech stuff. And so that's what I've been doing in terms of helping that organization. And this year, I am a manager. So, very exciting new leadership opportunity for me. And we'll see how it goes. It's my first time actually really in a larger leadership role. So, we'll see how it goes. If you have time, check out SACE as an organization. They do some really cool stuff. And are a lot of national chapters all across the colleges and universities in America. So it's a really cool group of people, really cool mission, really cool nonprofit organization that's constantly trying to stay in the game and innovate. So check them out. So those are the two main personal updates that I have. Some other minor ones I would say is the ultimate season is potentially coming back in the summer. Not sure exactly how it will look like because of the pandemic still ongoing, but definitely taking more opportunities to go outside, play ultimate frisbee, especially since the weather is getting nice. And yeah, trying to do that in the safest way possible. So that just involves, wearing masks the whole time, staying outside the whole time, staying away from people on the sidelines, things like that. But of the times that I've gone to play, I think it's been really rewarding to not only get some exercise, but also just hang out with a large group of my friends in person again. So it's definitely really great to see that it's coming back, and hopefully it only goes up from there. Another minor update, I got a perm. And so if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or wherever else you listen to the podcasts, you might not be able to see it. But if you follow me on social media, namely my personal Instagram page at KMLAIII, you can definitely see that I got a perm. So yeah, this is my third time perming my hair, and I don't know, it just gives my hair some texture. It's just a different look. There was a lot of people off. Definitely get a lot of shocked faces. So yeah. I don't know what more to say to that, but yeah, I got a perm. Alrighty, moving on. So now this is section I'm going to talk about podcasts in general. So the Social Science KLAI-descope as a podcast, what I think about, what are the things to come, and some general updates I want to share with that. And so, like I mentioned at the start of the episode, this is the 10th episode, and it's so incredible to see how many people have been listening to this podcast, and just it's very encouraging. So I know people listen to it because a lot of my friends have either text messaged me, DM'd me, or actually in person told me that they listened um, to my podcast and how fun they found it, and how much they were able to maybe learn from a lot of the various guests or personal experiences that I've had. And so, really happy to hear that, and definitely keep those coming, because I read all of those comments, and I listen to all of the things that y'all tell me, and definitely encourages me to want to keep going, and push out topics to talk about. So definitely keep them coming. And, I can't thank you all enough for taking the time to listen to these episodes. I will also have to say that this all would not have been possible without the wonderful guests that I have on the show. And so, if you haven't already, be sure to check out all the episodes where I've had guests. They are amazing people, and they're all on their way to building out a very successful career. So definitely check those episodes out. And so, for all the guests out there, talking to Brendan Moore, Amia Malik, Dominic Sonkowski, Sonia Chen, Cindy Chung, Karen Nee, and other unnamed guests I have planned. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and spreading your wisdom. And I know a lot of y'all have told me that y'all had a really good time on the show, and don't be a stranger on the show. Please come back, and if you have anything to promote. Yeah. So yeah, to all the listeners and to my guests that I just named, thank you so much for participating on the Social Science Kaleidoscope. That being said, I do have more guests lined up, and recordings lined up as well. I just need to edit and schedule them, so be on the lookout for that. In terms of personal impressions of the podcast, I think a lot of my expectations have been shattered. And what I mean by that is, originally when I was planning this thing out in January, I just wanted to try a podcast, because I listened to so many of them during quarantine, that I was just like, what if I just recorded myself talking about something I'm either involved in or passionate about. And so initially I was expecting just to make 6 episodes, talk about some random stuff, maybe have 10 people listen to it per episode, and then call it a day. But as it turns out, I have 10 episodes right now. There have been 422 plays. At its peak, there was an estimate of 50 audience members, I think unique audience members. And so, honestly, a lot of those metrics have just shattered my expectations. And even for my most popular episodes up to date right now, which is episodes 2, 3, and 4, they've had 60 plays on them each. And so, I'm constantly just amazed at how many people are listening. And, I hope to keep that up, but also thank you all for listening to those episodes, and definitely have encouraged me to push past the initial goal of 6 episodes, and, exceed some of my listenership expectations. That being said, I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's still very difficult to talk in front of the camera, especially on solo episodes. And I'm pretty sure I will, get a sense of this when I go back and edit this episode. But yeah, it's just really awkward to talk in front of the camera. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable per se, but I guess when I'm thinking about end product and how I want it to sound, and how I think y'all want it to sound, it just makes me very nervous and just makes me feel very awkward about it. So that's something I'm working on in terms of being more comfortable with. And I hopefully have exhibited that through the episodes. I definitely personally feel more comfortable when I'm talking to either to a guest or in front of the camera now. So um, yeah, it's a work in progress, but um, very exciting to see progress in that dimension. While I'm still doing solo episodes, I definitely prefer to have guests on the show, and having that conversation with someone about something that they're passionate about, having a conversation with someone on topics that are usually not said, um, and so that's like topics on like being Asian American, being a woman in a field that's predominantly white men, let's say. That's also honestly been a very eye-opening and rewarding experience. That's not to say I don't usually have those conversations with um, my friends, but uh, I think being able to share those experiences and being able to communicate that with a general audience and listenership in a very thoughtful, respectful way has just been very eye-opening and rewarding for me to do. And I hope to do more of that in the future. At least for me, being Asian American in a field um, that's constantly changing in terms of diversity, such as in any of the social sciences. It's definitely a big part of who I am. And it's definitely something I want to talk about because I feel like, at least in the past 22 years, I would say, of my life, like I haven't really had an opportunity to really talk about that. So, um, yeah, gonna definitely keep those things coming. Um, but even beyond that, it's just kind of like having a very casual atmosphere and conversation where, um, so far, academics have come on to not only talk about their research, but talk about what they're interested in, what they're working on, and just having a very general chat uh, in a very casual atmosphere. I think that's the type of media that's not very explored in the social sciences space, especially in academic space, and so want to keep that going. Um, I will say that if there's anything that I found somewhat concerning, I want to say a lot of my guests recently have been very academic and especially in the field of economics. And that is not by design. It just happened that a lot of people that I was very comfortable asking right off the bat in terms of doing interviews with, they've all been in that space, and it makes sense because I've been working or studying in that space for like the past 7 years. So, my apologies there. Definitely hope to reach out to more, um, just more professionals or more academics in other fields of the social sciences. And yeah, I know I've done one in political science, but I think I can do more. I feel like I can do something in psychology maybe. Um, yeah, just like hope to branch out in the social sciences and also hope to branch out in terms of type of work as well. So not only academics, but working professionals and yeah, working professionals like maybe like I want to say bankers, finance people, like government. I don't know. Whatever else is out there. Um, just kind of have a variety of experiences and hear about the various things that people are doing. And so those are my general impressions of how I found the episodes to have been so far. Um, as always, if y'all have any ideas as listeners if there's anything that y'all are interested in, please let me know. And also, if you want to come on the show, maybe like be a guest host, promote anything at all. So like you heard about this cool group or you've just created a nonprofit org or you're working as part of a organization, and you want to promote it, come on the social science kaleidoscope, DM me, and then I'll definitely try to set something up. And I think it'll make for a really fun and engaging episode. So that's all about that. I do have one major update that I need to give, and that is in terms of how regularly the episodes are being uploaded. I didn't expect for this to happen, but as of right now, they're being uploaded weekly. And that's just a byproduct of having really lucky scheduling in some sense. Um, and so, just by the nature of how I scheduled a lot of the interviews and scheduled the solo podcasts, they've been coming out weekly. And originally, I didn't intend for it to be that way, it just happened to be that way. But now I just want to temper uh, any kind of expectations that are out there. That that is not the case in terms of how I upload the episodes, and hopefully this is not to the detriment of this podcast, but it's very likely that I will not be uploading weekly per se. That's not to say that I'm not going to ever upload ever again. That's not the case at all. But I think going at a weekly pace was a bit fast, and I was very happy to be able to do it for around 10 episodes. But, as of now, might need to scale back a little bit only because of the other activities that I have going on, and just to give time for the guests to review the podcasts before I upload it, and a lot of the scheduling that I'll have to scale back. And so unfortunately they won't be weekly uploads, but hopefully I'll be uploading at a very good rate, comfortable rate in some sense, where y'all will still listen to the podcast. That being said, it is very important for y'all to follow the podcast on any of the streaming platforms, or follow any of my social media, at KLAI-descope on Instagram, at KMDLAI on Twitter, or connect with me on LinkedIn, so that way you don't miss a drop of a new episode. I'm going to wrap up the episode here. I pretty much said all I needed to say for now, at least. I hope you all are having a wonderful spring. It's honestly just such beautiful weather outside right now. And for all those that are experiencing spring allergies, hope you all make it through just fine and can also appreciate and enjoy the weather. Yeah, it's crazy to see how 2021 is just blowing by. Like, we're approaching May, and then after May it's going to be June, and that's the official halfway point of the year. Holy cow. Alrighty. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Social Science Kaleidoscope. I hope to see you all next time. Bye-bye.